In Java, default values are assigned to variables based on their type. If we have a reference type or an object reference that is not pointing to anything else, by default, the object reference has a default value of null. Null is a placeholder for specifying that there is nothing in this object. This is not a true or false, or indicating that this object is empty. Since all of the unreferenced objects in Java all have this default or automatically assigned value of null, a lot of times you will see developers using, for example, if there is a object reference, whatever this is, or my circle from the previous video, equals null. This nullness check helps us to keep track of the life cycles of a reference object. If this is not assigned, then you are free to assign anything of your choice to this reference object. This object reference can also be a reference of string or a generic object in Java, etc. In summary, null means it does not point to any object in memory, period. It turns out that primitive data types also have default values. For example, for a Boolean type, false is the default value. 0 is the default value for a numeric type, like integer. For a character type, we have this Unicode 0 as a default value. For float or double, their default values will be 0.0. Numeric type. This not only includes integer, this includes long, short, and also byte. Again, Java automatically initializes these variables to a default value. Looking at these examples highlighted, assuming that there is a student class defined elsewhere, and the student name is a string, student age is an integer, this is science major of a student is a Boolean, gender is a char, meaning M or F. Assuming none of this is initialized in the student's constructor by way of accessing these public data fields or attributes or properties of a student instance, these should give you a default null. The reason is name is a string object reference. Age is an integer, so it should have a default value of 0. Science major, Boolean, should have a default value of false. Gender, char, should have a default value of Unicode 0. Let's move on to talk about this particular use case where Java assigns no default value to a local variable inside the methods. Let's look at this use case where Java assigning no default value to a local variable inside a method. In Java, local variables declare within a method or block, basically anything that is within this pair of curly braces. These variables do not receive default values, unlike class level variables or data fields that we saw earlier. This instance, we have a test class, and inside a static void main, this is considered a entry point, which is also a function since it is static. Inside there's a functional scope between these pair of curly braces. This x is considered a local variable. So is this string y. These local variables are short-lived and exist only for the duration of their enclosing methods or block, meaning when this entire function exits, these local variables and their respective values are popped off of the stack, so they're gone. Java does not assign default values to them to optimize memory usage. The rationale is by not initializing them, this avoids unnecessary initialization overhead for variables that are often assigned a value immediately upon declaration. However, Java does require that local variables are explicitly initialized before they're used. So you would not say integer x without assigning values to it at some point prior to being used, like in this example. If you do run into the use case where these locally declared variables non-initialized are used, the compiler will raise an error. At compilation time, your code will not compile. You'll get something to the effect of variable x may not have been initialized, and this will be variable y may not have been initialized, compilation error. To fix this, you will want to assign x or y some default value. Even if you just do x equals 0 or y equals null, These are default values that would enable you to compile your code without such compilation error.